Alright everyone, let's end this up with Turnabout Intruder. On Stardate 5928.5, the Federation starship USS Enterprise rushes to answer a distress call for the planet Camus II, the site of an archaeological expedition that is exploring ancient ruins of a long-vanished culture. Upon arrival, the landing party finds 3 survivors. Among them are Dr. Janice Lester and Dr. Arthur Coleman. It is revealed that during their academy days, Dr. Lester and Captain Kirk were intimately involved. However, Lester's inability to achieve command of a starship, which believes had to do with her gender, caused the two to drift apart. Medical scans reveal that the survivors are suffering from radiation exposure which threatens their lives. Dr. Coleman, Science Officer Spock, and Chief Medical Officer Dr. McCoy go off to tend to the other survivor, leaving Lester and Kirk alone for a moment to talk. Kirk finds Lester has been driven to the point of madness by her self-hatred personality complex and complains about the agony of being a woman in a male-dominated existence. She traps Kirk in an alien device which can swap the personalities between 2 individuals. Joining Kirk in the machine, Lester's essence is transferred into Kirk's body, while Kirk's mind enters hers. Now as Kirk, Lester and Kirk tries to strangle her former body, inside which Kirk is trapped. Spock and McCoy return before Lester and Kirk have finished him off, and she, as Kirk, orders the landing party and the remaining survivors back to the Enterprise. Once there, Lester and Kirk removes McCoy from Kirk and Lester's case and gives Dr. Coleman, Lester's partner in crime, full authority for treatment. McCoy protests the decision, later telling Lester and Kirk that Coleman is known to have been ruled as incompetent to serve aboard a starship by the Starfleet Surgeon General, that Captain asserts that promotions and demotions can be politically motivated, but McCoy stands his ground with an ornery tone of voice. Alone, Coleman and Lester and Kirk privately converse about their plans. It is revealed that the two are in love with each other and have planned to have their personnel killed in order to lure the Enterprise to Camus II. Lester and Kirk has now achieved her lifelong goal of commanding a starship. Likewise, Coleman has now been given a chance to become the starship's chief medical officer. Lester and Kirk charges Coleman to make sure that Kirk and Lester, who is still trapped inside Lester's female body, stay out of the way by sedating him. No one recognizes Kirk in a woman's body. Yeah, I kind of see the why. Spock becomes suspicious when Lester and Kirk orders a course change to the Venetia colony to drop off Dr. Lester for medical attention, ignoring their previous mission, to rendezvous with USS Potemkin at Beta Aurige. Spock vainly points out that Venetia's medical facilities are comparatively primitive, and they are on course to adequate facilities, which they can reach at maximum warp in a time comparable to reaching Venetia. McCoy invokes his authority to override the captain's orders and perform a full medical scan, including the Robiani dermal optic test. The latter test Lester and Kirk being leery of, but seems to pass. Kirk and Lester manages to escape and goes to sickbay for help. Finds Lester and Kirk still there, being given a clean bill of health by McCoy. Lester and Kirk uses a series of violent slaps to render her former body unconscious, which McCoy demands he stops. Lester and Kirk orders the hysterical woman to be taken into custody and put into isolation. No one is to speak with her without my permission. Kirk and Lester is taken away, and Spock persuades the guard that the captain's orders had never meant to apply to his senior officers, and, in this case, keeps Spock from speaking with Lester. Spock speaks with Kirk and Lester and is somewhat skeptical of his story. Then Kirk and Lester persuades Spock to touch him with the Vulcan mind meld, whereupon he discovers the truth, that Jim Kirk's mind is indeed present in Janice Lester's body. Spock tries to free Kirk and Lester, but is stopped by a security team led by the imposter captain. Lester and Kirk accuse Spock of mutiny and immediately, and flamboyantly, via shipwide announcement, orders a court-martial. Once on trial, Spock tries to make a convincing case that Captain Kirk is really the body of Dr. Lester, and that the physical Kirk is an imposter. However, his evidence was obtained by telepathy, still considered a form of heresy in the 23rd century, and is inadmissible. Shocked by the incredible story, McCoy and Chief Engineer Scott converse secretly in the corridor about their captain's true identity, and, having witnessed Kirk's irrational behavior and hostility toward Dr. Lester, they decide, as members of the court-martial panel, to agree with Spock. Scotty says that the captain won't let the decision stand, and suggests that he and McCoy move against him to relieve the captain of command. McCoy is reluctant to the mutiny, but agrees it's the only way. Lester and Kirk suspects they've spoken in the corridor for a reason, and orders the court recorder to cut the conversation from recordings of corridor activity. Lester and Kirk then orders McCoy, Scotty, Spock, and Kirk and Lester to be arrested for treason. Their punishment will be death. An interment of the bodies will be up Anicia. Ensign Chekov and Lieutenant Sulu are outraged and pointed out that Starfleet bans the death penalty except for General Order 4, which isn't the case here. Lister Kirk refuses to listen and demands that everyone return to their posts. The remaining crew quickly turn against their captain when they realize that he isn't himself and refuse to obey his orders. Losing self-control, throwing a fit because Chekov and Sulu blatantly ignore her orders and, in unison, take their hands off their consoles. Lister Kirk falls into the center seat, and she and Kirk and Lester have a temporary reversion of minds. Kirk and Lester demands to fight for his own body if it happens again. Lester Kirk hurries to Coleman and tells him of the incident. Coleman tells Lester and Kirk that to make the transfer permanent, she must kill her former body while Kirk still occupies it. Lester Kirk shames and blackmails Coleman into preparing an injection of a toxic substance. The two head to Kirk and Lester's holding cell. Lester Kirk again loses self-control when she sees Kirk and Lester struggling with Coleman as he vainly tries to inject the toxin, and the reversion starts again. This time Lester is too late, and the reversion completes. Captain Kirk is finally himself again. Hysterical Lester makes one last attempt to kill Kirk but fails, and Lester and Coleman are taken into custody. Coleman then pleads with Kirk to allow him to care for his mentally deranged love, and Kirk decides that they will be dropped off at Starbase 2 to face charges. In the meantime, the Enterprise resumes its current mission with the Potemkin. Kirk muses, "Her life could have been rich as any woman's. If only. If only." So, yeah, pretty interesting finale overall. I give Turnabout Intruder 5 warp cores out of 5. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me for Star Trektember 2016. This was really fun, and I'm definitely going to continue next year with Star Trek the Animated Series. So, until next year, live long and prosper, everybody.